And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Saturday morning, showing a lot of IFR out here over the Bering Sea, right into the southwest coast there, on up to the Bering Strait, and then down covering most of the Aleutians. And on into Bristol Bay, the interior not too bad, some IFR here along the Alaska Range, otherwise the Kuskokwim Valley down into northeast Bristol Bay. And Kodiak Island starting out with VFR. Some marginal VFR there on the east side and some IFR up along the central and eastern Arctic coast. IFR in the Gulf of Alaska here, right up to Cordova, eastward across Yakutat and the extreme northern panhandle. For the afternoon, IFR right up along the southeast coast here and back up to or just south of Yakutat with marginal VFR into Prince William Sound. Cook Inlet, marginal VFR here along the Alaska Range. Otherwise, not too bad in the interior, south central Alaska Copper River Basin. Mostly VFR, west side as well, right up to the north slope. IFR along the eastern Arctic coast. And IFR out here to the west, pretty well spread out across just about all of the Aleutians and Bering Sea and pushing into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Across Norton Sound there to the south side of the Seward Peninsula. And for Sunday morning, just a large area of IFR now advancing inland here, right up to the Kuskokwim Mountains and even up to the Alaska Range there from Bristol Bay. Also an area there across the Noatak Valley from the northwest coast and along the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range. North slope there staying VFR with some lower conditions on the central and eastern Arctic coast. VFR here, central eastern interior down to the Copper River Basin. Cook Inlet, western Kenai Peninsula forecast to be VFR Sunday morning. And southeast coast, VFR, as well as the North Gulf Coast. Then for the afternoon, VFR here for the Panhandle. Some marginal VFR possible there along the coast of Prince of Wales Island. IFR also here for the western Gulf of Alaska into Prince William Sound and along the Alaska Range, marginal VFR Cook Inlet. And some IFR here pushing north across Dillingham and Togiak right up into the central Kuskokwim Valley. But the lower and mid-Yukon River Valley, VFR, farther to the east and north there becomes marginal VFR right up to the Brooks Range. And then the north slope staying VFR with, again, lower conditions, some possible IFR for the central and eastern Arctic coast. And a lot of IFR here along the coast and to the west into the Bering Sea. All of the Aleutians, even up to Kodiak Island, mostly VFR, or I'm sorry, mostly IFR. For the passes, Anaktuvik and Adigan. Or for Anaktuvik, marginal VFR improving to VFR tomorrow, but it looks like Adigan will be mostly marginal throughout the entire day. Maybe a little improvement in the afternoon. Lake Clark and Merrill starting out marginal, becoming VFR, same pattern for rainy. And for windy, marginal VFR times throughout the day Saturday. Same forecast for Isabel. VFR for Mentasta, VFR for Tanita. And for Portage, starting out marginal but becoming VFR, so not a bad day there through Portage Pass. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR. Freezing levels, a little bit cooler air aloft here, 6,000 feet, moving into the northern panhandle, extending back over the southeast interior. And then some even colder air up over the western and central north slope and Arctic coast. And out to the west here, 10,000 feet all the way up into the northern Bering Sea, 12,000 feet here just west of the Pribilofs, and that extends down to even warmer conditions down toward the central Aleutians. And with that front pushing eastward here, look for a band of considerable moderate rime icing from the Chukchi Sea across the Seward Peninsula down along the west coast to the Alaska Peninsula. Otherwise, just some diminishing areas of possible isolated moderate icing for the northern panhandle and the eastern, over toward the eastern border. Jet stream showing upper trough moving eastward. Southwest flow 105 knots right into the panhandle there. North to northwest 70 to 75 knots through the central interior. And then the winds become westerly here across the entire Bering Sea and the Aleutians with a jet max here 135 knots advancing eastward across the central Bering Sea. And at 9,000 feet, northwesterlies, 35 knots across the Alaska Peninsula. Stronger winds back out here to the west with system centered way up there in the Russia area. and pretty light here over much of interior Alaska, all the way to the Arctic coast down into the Gulf here. A little bit of a weak low in the eastern Gulf with southwest winds at 40 knots into the Panhandle. And at 9,000 feet, westerly winds here at about 45 to 55 knots across all the Bering Sea, and west-southwest 35 knots right into the central interior areas. And for the southern Panhandle, 40 knots across the Queen Charlotte's with a little bit of wind catching the southern southeast coast. And for turbulence, pretty smooth over the Panhandle, nothing too significant there forecast, same as the central interior. With the winds out here ahead of that system, look for considerable moderate turbulence, northwest coast, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, Point Lay area, and then lighter turbulence down to St. Matthew Island with isolated moderate turbulence from the western Alaska Peninsula all the way out to Chimay and Attu.